My pleasure. How is everybody doing? Ready for the fun of coding? Crickets. Yeah.
Come on, surely Rabbi enthusiasm.
I'm not ready, but I'm being brave.
Yes. So as I said in the chat, and I hope if you didn't see it, I will say it again. I hope you're not being intimidated by the word advanced. It's still going to be very gentle. All we're going to do today is see how you can take a code-based sketch like what we did last week and mint it on Hicketnung/Teja. Since I first did since the first time I did this introduction, also for vertical crypto art residents in the last residency, a lot has changed. There are more options, and also things happened with Hicketnung. So yeah, lots of changes, but also yeah, a lot of new opportunities to show generative art. Mainly FX hash, also Versum. So yeah, I will we will cover those a little bit, but since we have limited time, I will focus on Teja, which is the community run version of Hicketnung, or fork of Hicketnung, or I like to call it a reboot because Hicketnung was discontinued. So yeah, let's not get into this. But I don't know if you've had some historian of Hicketnung giving you the gist, but yeah, well, I guess we don't have time for this. Anyway, yes, so the way it's gonna work is I want to show you a few examples of artworks that I think are relevant and interesting. Some of them quite experimental, some of them more basic generative art, and then I'll show you how to do it. This is an endless well of possibilities, and we're only going to scratch the surface today. But I still want to show you how far you can go. So if you see things and it looks too complex, it's just because I want to show you the breadth of what's possible. But we'll keep it simple when we get to the practical things. Also, I prepared some templates that I will share with you. So if you need to mint your own works, you can use those templates there, or there are actually also like community made templates that you can use. I'll give you the links to all the resources that you need, so you don't have to worry about this. And without further delay, let's get started then. Do we have any questions so far, expectation, hopes, and fears about coding that you want to voice before we get started? Otherwise, we'll start. But yeah, I want to give you an opportunity to say a word. Speak now, or speak later. Okay. All right. Well, then let's start. So I will share my screen. Go live. Yes. Is it working? It's working. Cool. So, and I'll open the chat. So if you have questions, you can also write them there. Okay, so people getting muted because they're at work. Kiki. So this is my own page on Hicketnung. I mean, it's the same on Teja. You will see teja.art. Teja just launched their own minting swap marketplace contract. So now you can mint your NFTs directly on Teja, which I would recommend if you've been using Hicketnung to switch to Teja. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but yeah, Teja is the community run version, and right now it has 0% fees. They will switch to 2.5 like Hicketnung in a moment. In the future, I don't know exactly when. But yeah, so some of the things that I minted on Teja, well, on Hicketnung back then, are GIFs and images, static images. So you can mint that. This is just a picture. It was how I felt after my first weekend on Hicketnung, and some of them are code based. And this was the first one, my first code based NFT. Very early on, after it was made possible. what the way that this doesn't look like much, but it is the square is rotating, and it slows down very, very faintly over time, and it will stop eventually 999 years from now. I minted it a year ago, so it was 1,000 year square. And yeah, so it is made with code, and even though you can't really see that, if you were to inspect this page, you would see that it is code. And the origin of, like, the very first, we can put a date, a very specific moment when interactive NFTs were made possible on Hiket. And this is it. It's called The Magician, for a reason. That is that in the original Hiket, you could only mint images and PDFs and SVGs. Crucially, SVG is a vector graphics format that you can use on the web. And one thing I didn't know about SVG, which the creator of The Magician, Macchio, Lionel Radisson, actually did know, is that in an SVG you can also embed some HTML and JavaScript. So what that means is you can make an SVG interactive. And he tried it. He tried it on Hiket, and it did not work. And so he wrote to Andre Venancio, who was one of the developers helping with the code on Hiket, and asked, hey, could you make it available, like possible to run code inside of an SVG, which Andre did. And that was the first way that you could actually do interactives on Hiket, was by embedding HTML and JavaScript inside of an SVG, and that was this one. And this was revolutionary in a way, because when you would look at it in the feed, you would just see a black square, and when you opened it, it was moving, and that was something that wasn't supposed to be possible. And so everybody was just going bonkers about it, and I like many other people, I looked at this and so, ooh, possibilities. And so I minted my own a bit later with SVG as well. And then later, a proper way to do it was introduced, which was that you could upload a zip file that contains the HTML and JavaScript files, which is a more comfortable way to make something that is interactive, rather than having to embed it inside of an SVG, which is honestly not very convenient. But it was a cool hack, and I wanted to mention it for historical reasons. Maybe the nerds among you will get a kick out of this. Otherwise, disregard it as the ramblings of a mad nerd. But no, it has historical value, and yeah, The Magician is this piece of history. Let's see a few other ones. So I selected a few pieces to show this one is hurting my eyes already, to show the various things that you can do with interactive NFTs or interactive objects that you couldn't do otherwise. And the first one, because the previous thing that we saw could have as well been a GIF, right? But this is a piece by Leander Herzog that, if I put in full screen mode, which you can do on Theia, you will see it automatically adapts to fill the screen. And this one changes over time. Like, it has different kind of patterns that it cycles through. I really like it also visually. But yeah, it is responsive, in the sense that's a word in web development mostly. That means that something adapts to the side of the screen. If you have questions, feel free to write them or speak up. I'm just gonna speak, but you should feel totally comfortable interrupting. I don't mind it at all. All right. So yeah, so you can. Yes, this is a piece by Saskia Freke, which you can refresh by pressing R on the keyboard. So I'm pressing R, and it will give me several patterns. So this is another way that you can have interaction. This one is also responsive, as you can see, if I put it on full screen mode. And to me, it's something, and this is also true for FX Hash and Versum, is it's quite important to think about when you make an interactive NFT or like a creative code that you intend to mint, to think about how it's going to behave on different in different configurations they can run. That means the screens, but that also means different browsers. How does it run on mobile? Which are all considerations that you need to have when you do web development. And that is not the fun part of it. And to be honest, in most cases, if you just do something simple with P5, you're not going to have to worry too much about this. But as soon as you get into like slightly more complex sketches, it's something that's important. And you might be surprised sometimes as to what doesn't run on mobile that you thought was quite simple. So I would recommend when you're making these kind of pieces to always check how it runs on mobile, how it runs on different browsers, how it runs on Firefox and Chrome and Safari, anything you can have put your hands on. It's not crucial, and I know a lot of people are minting things that are not that optimized. But I think it's part of having respect for your own work and respect for your collectors to try and make things that are running as consistently as possible on different platforms. Might be controversial, I don't know, but that's how I like to think about it. Going a little further, there are some interesting things that you can do. Specifically on Theia, it's supported on some other platforms. Object.com has a limited support for these things, and unfortunately, they're getting it's getting less and less. I talked to them recently. They have some security reasons for why they deactivated some of the interactive things that we're going to talk about today. But for now, on Theia, it still works. But you should have that in mind that some of the features that Theia supports might not be supported on Object.com. Sorry, and this piece is a piece of mine, and what's cool about it is if you look at it while being synced, while having your wallet synced, so being logged in. I'll put the link in there. So if you look at this yourself, it's going to look different. So for each person who looks at it, it's going to look different based on your wallet ID. And SVGs get a security banner on Object too. Yes. So there's lots of limitations. If you look at this kind of objects on if you look at objects on Object.com that are interactive, they have a good reason to do it. It's because an interactive object could trigger a transaction, and then you would still have to accept the transaction. But it is a security risk. Like you could force a pop-up from Tempo or Kukai or whatever that asks you to send money, and if you didn't realize that was that, then you might be sending TES to some random wallet without realizing. Debatable whether it should be the responsibility of the user or not, and crippling interactive works because of that is a bit of a shame. But I also understand that they want to protect their users, being for better or worse the biggest Tezos platform, NFT platform in Tezos. That's a debate we can have another day, I guess. So anyway, yes, so I could show you. So this one is also responsive once again, but if I look at it in an incognito window, not being synced, see, it's going to have a different color pattern. And if you look at it with your own wallet, it's also going to look different. There are more advanced things that you can do with this. What's the way that Hiketnunk and now Theia are doing this is that if we look at the way that this object is displayed, and don't worry about all this code. I just want to focus on these parameters here. You can see that the object is inside of an iframe. That's an object in HTML that is basically like a little browser window inside of a website. So it's like a window onto another website, or in this case, onto the HTML code that I've written. And we can see that Hiketnunk /Theia is passing some variables to the sketch inside of the iframe, namely the wallet of the creator. In this case, it's me. The wallet of the viewer. Right now it says false because I'm not synced, but if I was synced, it would also be my wallet ID, which would be different from the creator ID if it wasn't me. And I see all white and your cursor. Oh, okay. That is not great. Let me see. Oh, 5 FPS live. Okay, let me see. I'll try to share my screen again. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, yeah, there you go. So I'm not sure when this started, but yeah, this is the this is the object in question, and you can see, yeah, in the incognito window, it looks different, and that's because here I'm synced and here I'm not. And I'll show you this again. So yeah, here you see it's getting the object from IPFS where it's stored. Then I have the creator wallet, which is mine. In this case, the viewer is false because I'm not synced, and the object number. And this is also a really cool one because, and we'll see this in a moment, but we can access the Higtex API, which is an API that gives you information about objects. And if the object knows its own number, then it can request metadata about itself, including data about sales. So you could make an object that changes based on sales that happened, or you can make an object that checks on another object if you know the number of that object, and check if that other object is owned by the person currently viewing your object. There's lots of interesting advanced stuff you can do there. You probably won't do this if you're just starting with code, but it's cool to know that it exists, and it's something that I've loved to play with in the past. It means that your object is also kind of it makes it experimental in the sense that these API access can be revoked by some platforms like Object has done, but it also opens lots of cool possibilities. And then you have like more traditional interactions. Like here, I can use my mouse. I see. I was sharing. Okay, I was sharing. I thought I was sharing a screen, but I was sharing just a window of the program. That's why. Okay, got it. So yeah, let's reopen this one. This shouldn't happen again now. So yeah, here you have a piece by Gallo, which is interactive, and it has this nice looking fluid simulation. And yeah, this is something you can make with P5 or similar JavaScript frameworks. Here is a piece by Toom, and she's an artist who was minting on Hikitnuk for a while. I don't know if she's been active recently. I think she did sort of dropped off. Oh no, there's some more recent stuff. Yeah, well, not that recent, but she was doing some really cool stuff with Cellular Automata, and Cellular Automata are these sort of life simulation. Very simple. Well, it's abusive to call them life simulation, but the Game of Life by John Conway is a famous one, and it's basically a grid of pixels that can change based on simple rules, and there's emergent properties that happen, and these are some of my favorite pieces in interactive pieces in the early days of Hikitnunk. They're called broken automata in this collection, and there's a bunch of them, and they are, again, all of this is running in the browser, so it's not a pre-rendered GIF animated thing. This is calculated in the moment in the browser. It might look like a GIF, but it isn't. It is running live. All right. Do we have any questions so far? If anything comes to your mind, please let me know. There's these cool tools Xerox 10 made on Hiketnung that read data from user wallet, etc. Yeah, if you have a link to that, please put it there. I'm not sure which ones you mean, but I will show Hikdex in a moment, which is an API that also gives you information about stuff that happens in people's wallets and elsewhere, and mostly on objects. All right, Hugh Messi is a really cool artist, and he's making animations that he's knitting on. Yeah, yeah. Oh, so I have to click to trigger each animation on this one. And this is made with Crossing or P5. I'm not sure anymore which one. And then it's sewn onto fabric, and here he made this really cool one where it's interactive with the mouse, and I can rotate this plane shape, and it cycles through all the frames that make this rotation. Yeah. Oh, this is not centered. Yeah. Click to proceed, then drag left and right once the plane is made. Yeah, there you go. So that's, see, just to show you that there's more than one way to think about code-based art. It doesn't have to end up being pixels. It can also go through the physical world. All right, now we're getting into more experimental territory, and this is some of the, to me, one of the most interesting pieces in on Hiketnung and now on Teia, which is the Meta Instruction series by Yazid. And Yazid is an artist who has made a lot of these works in the early month, like first 6 months of Hiketnung. And he wasn't using the API that I've mentioned. He wasn't using Igdex. He was using something more low level. And what's quite amazing about his work is that the code that generates this shape that you see above is in the description of the piece itself. So this is basically on-chain art on a platform, or on-chain generative art on a platform that didn't explicitly support on-chain code-based generative art. So yeah, here you can see a P5 sketch, and what this object does, it has some extra code, and it looks into the blockchain for itself, finds the description in the metadata, and then evaluates this code. Safe to say, none of us are going to do this, probably. This is really non-standard way to approach it. So don't think that this is normal, but it is fun, and it's the kind of experiments that Hiketnung allowed, and now Teia still allows, which I think are some of the most interesting aspects of the platform, and something that makes the Tezos environment, or Tezos NFTs, a great place to be for creative coders and people experimenting with code-based art. This is another one from Yazid. This one is checking the number of object minted, and represents it as a visual element. So it's a time-based piece that will change over time based on what happens on the chain. To me, these pieces, and again, I want to emphasize this, is that even though that's kind of even a niche inside of a niche, it's and very few artists are actually doing this. I think that's to me some of the most exciting work that has been done on Tezos and on any NFT or any blockchain is work that could not exist on another medium, or that really uses the blockchain as a medium, and that's the kind of stuff that Yazid used to do. This one's also a really cool one, but it has okay. It was I think it existed before, and it then got minted on Hiketnung. It's a piece called "Things Are a Little Crazy Right Now," and this one I love because of the concept more than so much for the tech. The tech of it is not that complex, I guess, and it is. Yeah, so I mean, I can read you the description. It simulates a scheduling hell by generating an infinite and unique combination of meeting conflicts between two friends. So yeah, you have these two virtual people are stuck in an endless loop trying to find a meeting that will not happen ever. It's yeah, it's beautiful. That's a bad time. I have to pick up my son from school. How about May 2nd, 7 a.m.? Nope, can't make that. I have to go to the store to get some more bread for her dog food. Yeah, so it's just generating excuses and reasons why they can't meet forever and ever, and it never repeats. Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. Okay. And finally, I wanted to show that this is this is another piece of mine, and that was the first one where I experimented with something that. So, here, Santiago is sharing something. What is this? Oh, okay. Finance. Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. He was minting some tools to generate financial statements. Okay, so you can see everything about my about my income now. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a matter of public record, literally. So, yeah. So this one is yeah, has this button here that I added, which lets you look at the code that generates the piece. So it's a piece that shows its own code, and this is not standard. I had to write the code to show the code, but yeah, that's to show you the like. Hopefully by now you have an idea of the variety of pieces that you can make with these. With code. And actually there was I missed one that I really wanted to show you, which is from New Yellow 2, the rooms. And yeah, so New Yellow was making a series of pieces that if it loads, I don't know if he next still has support for this. Yeah, so so these are cool because and I wanted to show you this one because I know there are people among you who are more like visual artists and you don't necessarily have code or use code in your practice. But these are illustrations that are interactive in a very simple way. So you can just like turn on and off the light and you hear the sound, or actually maybe you don't, but there's a sound of the light switch going on and off. And one of the cool things about this series is that for each room, if you own one of the other rooms, then some objects will appear in the illustration that wouldn't be there otherwise. So yeah, each room that you own affects the other rooms. So yeah, there was yeah, if you own the living room, then there's a joystick in the bedroom or the office. If you own the kitchen, there's a cup of coffee in the office, etc. So I'm not sure if that's very clear, but yeah, see here. So these objects are only added if you own the other room illustrations. Yeah. So yeah, just to show you that even if your main practice or your main medium is not code or generative art, you can still use code in interesting ways to make your work take advantage of the platform and of the medium, the blockchain medium. All right, and the last one is this beautiful piece by Andreas Rau, which is called Recursive Twins, and I'm gonna try to show it the best way that I know how, which is split screen and reload both. Yes, so the way that Recursive Tween works is that in a similar way to the piece by Yazid before that read its own description, this one will load the code from the description of the other and back and forth. So when this one loads, it looks for the code in this one, which itself in turn will look for the code of that one, etc., etc. So they load each other in a frame that gets smaller and smaller, and it keeps going forever, even though now it's too small and you can't see it. So yeah, here you can see the code in there that looks for the other recursive twin. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. All right. So yeah, and that's about as far as we're gonna go with the mind twisting object. Do we have questions or remarks or things that weren't clear? I know it's a lot. I'm dumping on you some pretty crazy pieces, but yeah, if you have questions before we get into the practical approach, like how do we do that ourselves? I see Santiago's typing, so I'm gonna wait. Come and Ed Marola minted a game on Versum not long ago. Yeah, so Versum also supports interactives. It's even easier to do on Versum. Oops. For some reason I was zoomed in all the way here. Yeah, on Versum you can mint interactives. It's called web format. And you just have to drag a directory that contains HTML and JavaScript, and there's a lot more flexibility there. Well, actually, that's not true. There's some. It's more convenient, but it doesn't have yet the ability to do the kind of stuff that we talked about before with artworks that read information about themselves or others. And it might be the case in the future, but it's not right now. But yeah, you could make a game and mint it. Basically anything that you can make as, let me see if I explore filter, formats, web, code, web. Yeah, so anything that you can make as a website, like a standalone website that doesn't require external resources, you can mint on any of those platforms. So yeah, but this Tamagotchi, a Tezogotchi, sorry. Yeah, so you can make this kind of funny games and mint them. Yeah, there you go. Or yeah, 3D things. Everything is possible. Who made this one? Oh, yes, Andrew Aber is making stuff with. So it doesn't even have to be P5. So here, what Andrew does is usually made with what's called a fantasy console called Pico 8, and it's 8-bit graphics made in the way that that games were in the 80s. Yeah, so you don't have to use P5. You can use some other platforms, but we're going to use some other tools. But we're going to use P5 because that's what I am mostly familiar with. And yeah, everything that we're going to see is going to apply no matter what tool that you're using. Well, most of it is going to apply. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, I prepared some templates. If you want to follow directly on there, you can open this page and go look at them. And yeah, and then you can take this code and mint it. It's also available on GitHub if you're familiar with that stuff. Let me see if I can show it. Or I think I have the link there. Oh yeah, the link is there as well. Oh, it's here. Okay. So yeah, you can also find those on Hiketnunk. So one thing that I should show you first before we get into the code itself is that there is a guide to interactive object. There's a pendant to this page on the Teia wiki but it's mostly the same at the moment, or exactly the same as far as I can tell. So yeah, Hiketnunk lets you publish web-based interactives and generative works. the folder structure is this one. You don't have to think about this too much because, you have the templates, but if you want to understand how that works, but we'll see that in the code itself. Features, yeah, it lets you use some aspects, some inputs. So keyboard, it's not mentioned here, but you have the keyboard and mouse. But also, if you're on mobile, the accelerometer. So when you're moving your phone around, you can get that orientation information, gyroscope. Camera, I guess you can also, I guess a camera input. Microphone, there's very few pieces I've seen that use it, but some. And XR spatial tracking, this one I haven't really seen used at all. I'm not even sure how that works. But yeah, you can, I guess you can open an AR view and see an object in AR in augmented reality. So that's kind of cool. But you can't make like very advanced stuff. It's just placing an object in your space. And what's very important is the fact that on Theia and Hiketnung at least, and not on object.com anymore, and it seems very unlikely that they will allow any of this in the future anymore for security reasons. You can access some APIs, lots of stuff related to Web3, like IPFS, Pinata, but also some other stuff like Google Fonts and what else? I think there was like Wikidata. Though I've tried to use Wikidata once and it's pretty complex. But if you're familiar with data data stuff, data APIs, or with Wikidata, you can use it. And yeah, what else? Like weather. So weather information. You can include weather information in your code, and what's very Hiketnung itself, and I hope that they fixed that on Theia, so they also works with Theia domain. But that also means that, I haven't shown examples of that, but there were pieces that allowed all the people that are looking at this piece at the same time to share, to be together in a metaverse. So yeah, you can do some pretty advanced stuff. But all of this is very brittle in the sense that, it might stop being supported at any point in the future. And it also means that if any of these APIs change in the future or get discontinued, then your object will break unless it has a fallback for the case when the API doesn't respond. So yeah, something to keep in mind. But for experiments and like conceptual art, it's really cool. And this is HikDex, and that is it's an indexer, and that means that it takes all the data from Hiketnung. And actually, good question. Is it working with Theia now? I haven't looked yet. I haven't looked into this yet. But it's taking all the data from sales on the various objects and makes them available in a format that you can make requests and get information. So I could ask, okay, I know the number of that object. I want to know the addresses of all the people who bought it, and I will get a file, or no, sorry, I will get I'll get a reply that will tell me like, okay, there are 10 wallets, and these are the people who own it, and I could say like, okay, well, give me the names of those accounts, or tell me how many editions they own, and all of this can be used then to make the object, make the art change based on those. For example, I could show you in my collabs tab. I made this piece with Mumu the Stan, and it has different amounts of colors based on how many of an other piece of hers you own. All right. Okay, so yes, we still have a bit of time, so we can get into the practical part of this. Let me log in so I can tweak this. Okay, so collections, Html templates. Is that still okay for everybody? Mm, I'm going a little fast. So if you need me to explain something a bit better or slower, please let me know. You can type in the chat, even if you're at work. So, okay. Yes, basic template. All right. So, yeah, we're here again in the P5 editor. If you weren't there last week, well, you can go on YouTube and watch the tutorial from last week, where I introduced the basics of creative coding. I'm not going to go over the basics again, but I'm going to tell you about about the things that are specific to making code in order to mint it on Hiketnung/Thea. All right. So yes, this is just a small optimization to disable friendly errors. It's so that we don't get the system that P5 uses to give you human readable errors in the console. You can turn it to true when you mint, and it's supposed to make things a tiny bit faster. And so I have put that here. It's not essential, but it's a nice to have. The document title is not something that you will see on Hiketnung, but if you're watching, if you're looking at your piece by itself, like let's say if you're looking directly on IPFS, then that's what you will see in the title of the object, so of the page. So it will appear here at the top. Again, not essential, but nice to have. The description, this is for accessibility. That's a nice feature of P5 that it makes it easy to add a description for screen readers. So for people who are visually impaired using screen readers, well, you can write a description of your piece, and it will be made readable by a screen reader. So yeah, those things are at the top, so you can set them easily. Preload, that's where you would load any assets, but in this basic sketch, we don't use assets. We just have a circle go up and down. And yeah, so creating the canvas, Windows width, window height. Remember that this is how we make sure that our sketch is the size of the window that contains it. And here we are also resizing it with the window resized function here. Resize canvas, again, window width, window height. These values will change based on the size of the window when it changes, calling the window sized window resized function. All right. Okay. So, all right. Yes. Moving on. Setup, create canvas. Yes. Description is there. Background translate circle. So that's just we're just drawing our content here, but that's where you would write your own code in the draw. Right. So yeah, and I have these for inputs as well. So right now it doesn't do anything except write something to the console. So if I press R, it tells me R was pressed, and if I press C, it tells me C was pressed. So C R C R C, and it goes into the console. You can replace this with any functionality that you need to do with the keyboard, and if you need to know what the numbers here correspond to, you can go to keycode.info and you will get this information. So here I can type any key and it will give me the number that corresponds to it. That's neat. Okay, but now we're getting to the important part, which are the built-in variable on Hiketnung and Thea. And those variables here are, as we saw before, the creator, which is the wallet of the person who made the object, the viewer, that's the the wallet of the person that is currently viewing the page or the NFT. It will be false if the person is not synced. Important note is it will be false as a string. So it would be the word false, not the value false as a boolean. Remember booleans? We talked about it last week. If you don't, again, go back and watch the first tutorial. And the idea of the object. And this, you don't need to really understand this, but it's that's how we go and read the value. As remember when I was showing you this, like here it's passing these these same values. So creator, viewer, and object. And this here is the same value here as we have here and here. 17747. Okay. Yes. And here what I'm doing is I'm just printing it to the console, but right now you can see it just says null because these values are not actually set here in the URL because we're in the P5 editor and not actually minted. But those values will be the actual values once we mint it. All right. Sorry for that. I'm still coughing, but I'm getting better, I swear. Okay. All right. Questions? Or should we move to the less basic templates? Is everything clear so far? 100% clear. No questions. You will be able to do this by yourself tomorrow or a week from now. Okay. So, well, good to know. Moving on to more advanced templates. So, which ones should we look at? Color palettes, responsive templates. Yeah, responsive templates is probably the most interesting one currently for you. So this one is doing a few things. First of all, you can see that it centers the canvas. So this means if you want, for example, to make an artwork that has a fixed aspect ratio. I showed you stuff like this, that when you make it full screen, it changes its aspect ratio. But maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you want it to be just clear as mud, as the expression goes. Well, then ask questions. I will not be able to clarify things 5 days from now when you're trying to do it again. Yes, so yeah, if you set it and the aspect ratio changes, meaning like now it's stretched, it's bigger, and it fits the window. But if you want it to stay square, you can do this. You can do this with this template, and the way that it works is, well, there's several things that it does. First of all, let me see where I do this. I think. Okay, set dimensions. No. Window resize. Yeah, okay. Resize canvas size, set dimensions. So yeah, it happens here. What we do, yeah, that's the line. That's the line where it happens. So we're checking what is the smallest dimension. Is it the width or is it the height? If the height is smaller, like if the height is smaller, and now the height is smaller, you see like this is the width and it's long, and this is the height and it's short. I hope that's clear. So we want to have that number. How high is it? And that will be the size of our canvas. But if I make it smaller, and now you can see that the width is small and the height is longer. Okay? So now we want that number, not this number. And that's what this line does, the min. So it checks which is the minimum of those two values, and it returns it, and then we set it as the canvas size. All right, cool. So yeah, and if you want to lock it to one maximum size, so you don't want it to get as big as the screen will allow, but just as big as you want it to be, and you want it to be yeah, so it can get smaller, but it can't get bigger than the maximum size. I have this value here, which you can set to true, has max size, and then set the maximum size here, reference size, to, well, that it says 600, so yeah, that's good. And now you can see it is still centered, but it will not get bigger than 600, but it will get smaller. Okay. All right. All right. Cool. So yeah, again, you can go and use these templates, look at them. They are commented. I'm trying to explain everything in there. There is a value that I call window scale that allows you to, if you multiply anything by it, then it will also be scaled down or up. And I use it for the text here and for the stroke width of that circle. And you could see that, for example, if I didn't multiply the stroke width by window scale, that when I make it smaller, then the thickness of the stroke stays the same. And so it looks larger relative to the rest of the elements in the composition, which might be what you want to do. So I gave you the freedom to do that. But if you want something to scale, you can multiply it by window scale. And there you go. Now it looks consistent. And you can see the window scale value is actually written here. So we have our reference size. So at 600, it's going to be 1. And if it's bigger, it's going to multiply by up to here 1.45 or 0.5, which is half. All right. It also has the ability to detect if it's full screen, which can be useful if you want to show something different when you're full screen. Yeah, it's a little tricky the way it's done. You don't have to really understand that, but it's checking. It's checking if it's full screen, and it should work. But always try, always check, and always check on different browsers to make sure that things work the way that you'd expect. All right. Okay, so let's go to our templates again. Yes, color palettes. All right. So here we have already an example of using this this information that we get from the built-in values. So say you wanted to make a piece like the one I showed you, like forest here. You want to use a different color palette depending on the person looking at it. Well, this is what this template does. So here we have palettes that are from a website called Coolers, which is a very useful website. You can go to get custom color palettes. And what's cool about it is that the values of the colors are encoded in the URL itself. So we can retrieve these values into in our code and then generate the palette from it. This is the code that does it. It's unreadable, and you don't have to know how to read it. All you have to know is that if you if you go to Coolers and you select the palette. So let's do that. Go there and pick a palette that you like say this one. Let's go click, open palette. Yeah, and there you see the URL. If I copy this and put it in my code as a new string here, then it will be added, and I can use it as one more palette. Right now, it's just picking a different one every time randomly. So I don't know when we are gonna have our green one. Have to reload a bunch of times until we stumble upon it. We're not getting lucky today. So yeah, you just have to trust me. Yeah, there you go. So that's our palette. That's this one. And you can see it's printed in the it gets printed in the console, so I can also click on it and then go and see the palette and change it if I want to, and then put it back in there. And here, yeah, again, we're getting our creator and viewer. And in this case, I will use the viewer data as a random seed, which is done init seeds. Okay, let me find it. Yeah. So there it checks if there's a viewer, and then it using the here it's gonna set the seed, the noise seed, and the random seed. And what does that mean? That means that every time you use randomness in your code, there's no real random in computers. So all the randomness that you get, it's been pre-calculated. So you have to imagine that if you want to throw a dice to get a random value, well, you can either throw the dice yourself, but computers don't really know how to throw a dice that is really random. So what they do is they have a book. It's not really a book, but it's like a list of random numbers that have been thrown, like dice that have been thrown before and set inside the computer. So it's like if you had a big book full of random numbers that have been calculated before, or not calculated, but rather like generated before. So you threw a dice a billion times and you wrote the results in a big book. And then you would have numbers that are random, but they're always the same. And what a seed does is it tells you where in the book to start to read those random numbers. And if you start reading in the same page and at the same line and at the same column, then you will always get the same random values. And that's what this random seed means. It's where do I start to read my random numbers? If you don't set a seed, it's going to pick a random seed. I know it gets a bit paradoxical there, but if you want to have consistent results and always the same thing for a given seed, well, you can set the seed yourself, and it's different for randomness and for noise, which is another kind of randomness, I guess. And so here we're using the viewer information, the viewer data that we got from the wallet to generate the seed. In practice, what this means is that if I'm the same person with the same wallet looking at the same object, I will always get the same, in this case, palette. So if you look at it, maybe you get green. If I look at it, maybe I get red. And that's what you can do with this template. Again, I'm trying to explain to you how it actually works under the hood, but you don't really have to edit any of that code. All you do is to use random to get a random color, but you could use random to draw a random shape. Actually, I have a pattern for this, a template for this as well, which is this one. User data. Hiketnung template. User data template. Okay. And yeah, this one is also to make a piece that looks different based on who's looking at it. And here you could see, like, yeah, it says null, but if I was to use, so yeah, viewer data is viewer. But if I use this dummy value, which is here my wallet ID, then it looks like this, and it's viewed by me here. And so you see the seed is this number, It's arbitrary, but it's always the same. And if here I set another wallet, say, it didn't end in this, but it ended in this. Now it's a different one, but it's going to be the same every time I run it. It's still blue, and it's still the same shape. Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. Again, you don't really have to worry too much about these if you don't want to do interactive pieces that responds to the viewer, but you can, and the templates are here for you to do this. I hear noise. Yes, do you have a question? Hello?
Santiago, you have your mic on. I don't know if you want to ask questions or...
I see Dylan is typing.
Okay, go.
Nope. Okay. Yes. So yeah, the way that this one works was pretty similar to the previous one, really. We have a noise seed, a random seed. Yeah, it's fine. I was asking about the shape of the stroke. Yeah, what did you want to know about it? So the way that this one is generated is it's actually drawing a circle over and over, and is it random size? Yeah, so it's a circle that is drawn again and again in like as I'm rotating it around, and the length of the radius of that circle is also kind of affected by noise. And yeah, so there's two values. There's the size of the brush in a way, and there's the size of the radius. And this is something you can see. Draw the brush. Yeah, here. Yeah, so we have the position of the brush and the size, and the position is defined here. It's trigonometry, so that's how you get the position of an object on a circle. But the radius itself is affected by noise, and the noise is calculated based on the x and the y. So it's like a circular noise, what's called a polar noise. And the size of the brush here is also calculated by using noise. I'm not sure why I'm doing the same twice here. Am I actually? Noise. No, I'm reusing noise x. Okay, yeah. All right. So yeah, that's just an example to show the possibilities. But yeah, that's you could draw anything that is going to be affected by those values. If you use random or noise, yeah, the random function or the noise function, and you set the noise seed and the random seed, then everything you do is going to be affected by this. And if your seed is based on the viewer, then this random draw is going to be specific. One interesting corollary to this is that, or is something you can use if you start making work on fx hash later. The way that fx hash does it, it's very similar, except instead of using the viewer as a seed, it doesn't tell you who's viewing the piece, so you couldn't do that on fx hash. But it gives you a seed that is based on the operation when it's minted. So when somebody buys something from a collection, it generates a seed or a hash that is a series of random letters and numbers. And this corresponds to the transaction. Yeah, to the minting transaction. And so your output is going to look different based on the operation hash. And that's how you end up having objects that look different, but they're all being generated by the same code. Okay. Yeah. All right. Are you still? How's your energy level? Are you ready for something more advanced? If I don't hear anybody screaming, I will continue.
Can I
Yes,
ask a
yes,
question?
definitely.
Yes,
Or-
please.
I'm wondering, are there kind of standard checklists that you maybe also in general for web development can go down, make sure that you've thought of everything? For example, that it's responsive, or like that you've tested different browsers. Like, I know that there's a lot of these things that you need to check, but I would be kind of afraid that you would skip one.
Yeah. I mean, I've been learning all of this on, as I go along. As for each new piece that I make, I realize more things that I did wrong in the previous one. So I wouldn't be too worried. If it's basically learning web development as an artist. So yeah, it's an endless. It's really endless. All the things that you could you could check. If you start using WebGL and shaders, it becomes even more complicated, which is what I'm doing right now. So I don't have a specific list. I just sort of remember everything, all the pain points from the previous one, to try not to do it again. Yeah, so it's hard to say because it will depend also on what you're doing. Like for if I told you about the piece I did with Mumu. I'm not sure where I put it. Let me show you. So no collection. No, I'm not on Teia. Collab. So yeah, so for this one, yeah, this is not the best example. Yeah. So yeah, so here I can show you actually. So yeah, depending if you on the amount of editions you own of a previous piece of Mumu's, you would get more or less colors. And one thing that we realized while doing it was that things were loading really slow. And that was because even though all the assets that we're using were really tiny, they're really small PNGs, there were a lot of them, and IPFS is super slow. And so if you want to load all these assets, they all take a really long time, and so it would be super slow. I have the yeah, no, I don't have the image here, but the solution in this case was to make sprite sheets. So instead of having like however many object items we had here, like 50, 60 different images, we only have 3. And then I cut them up inside the code to get the ones to get the pixels that I need. But this is a specific thing to that particular piece. For Carrot, it was different. So I can show you. I had some different issues. Nope, not this one. Ah. No. Okay, there we go. So here here I had many different issues. It ran terribly in Firefox, and I didn't check that at the beginning. So that's definitely a thing to check first if you want collectors and people looking at your work to have a good experience. You want to check early on that the structure, like make the code as close as possible to the final thing. And then then try it in different browsers. And there's something called a profiler in all browsers that you can find, and it will tell you how performant your code is, how quick it runs. So here in performance, I can run the profiler for a few seconds, stop it, and then it will give me a summary of how it doesn't look the same as I'm used to. Yeah, then this is getting a bit advanced, but oh yeah, there you go. So here it's showing you, how long the draw is taking. For example, in we have our draw loop, and oh yeah, there you go. And here it's fine because we see that all of our code is running in much less time than a whole frame. But if this becomes longer and it starts to be longer than one frame, then you start to drop frames and you start to have stuttering or a sketch that runs too slow. Yeah, I have a template for this as well, which is not included in there, but because it's a more recent one. Let me see if I can show
But
you.
in general, these are also kind of things that you are finding out along the way, because even though
Yeah.
I'm a code-based artist, I'm just really not a web developer, So
Yeah, I know.
there's
And I wasn't either.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't either, and I find these things. I find these things as I go. I have this. So I made this one, Fps Counter. So yeah, I have this. I have this thing that checks the frame rate.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a template that I haven't put in the Hiketnook ones because it's more recent. But yeah, you could include it in your code. And yeah, then you need, if you want to publish something on FX hash, or if you want to publish a web token on Versum, or an interactive object on Theia, then I think it's good practice to make sure that it runs as well as possible, and not just runs fine in your browser on your machine, and then everybody looks at it and then the performance is crap. I think it's a good idea to try to get these things right. And if you don't want to, you can also generate a GIF or generate a static image or video and publish that. Which is why that's why I did it this way for our collab, and for the oh, from yeah. So I made, after the carrot collection, which was such a pain to make run properly. I did a collaboration based on the same topic, and these ones, they're videos, and they're videos for a single reason, which is I didn't want to deal with optimization for browsers and checking on different browsers for each collab, because that would have made it a nightmare. And I can't predict what each of you are gonna want to do. And if you start using shaders or whatever, then it can mean another month of debugging. So yeah, that can be that is certainly like a dramatically easier experience if you just export your sketch as a GIF or as a static image, than if you try to have it run in the browser. And I don't know how many of the collectors actually care about that stuff, but I feel like they should, and I certainly do, because I just want my art to be experienced in the way that I have in mind. And if people look at it and it's like 3 frames per second, then it's not a good experience. So yeah, that's a long answer to a short question. Do we have any other?
Yeah. I have a follow-up question. Like, does it
Yes,
just
please.
involve a lot of?
Sorry, you dropped
Does
out.
it just? Oh, can you hear me? Am I back?
Yeah, yes. So far, yes.
I'm wondering, like, does it just involve you Googling a lot of things to find this out?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it involves me like just running into an issue and then trying stuff out. Yeah, so for the geometry of the gem, it took me forever to figure out how to generate it from the points. And yeah, that's that's me struggling there. Um, and yeah, asking. So I run this Discord. Some of you may know or have joined already. Well, I can't show you because I'm on Discord with you, but I'll put the link there. So yeah, I run a Discord called the Burb's Nest, and it has this kind of there's lots of people there who know more than I do even, and well, not even sounds pretentious, but yeah, who know a lot more than I do, who are professional developers, some of them. And so yeah, if I get stuck, I ask there, and there's often nice people who are able to answer. And yeah, you learn as you go. I would say, if you're learning the basics, you're less likely to come across the kind of issues that I'm talking about here, because here I'm using WebGL, and everything to do with 3D is getting more sorry, to do with WebGL gets more complex. So yeah, you're less likely to have this kind of really like crappy optimization problems and debugging issues, but you will have your own debugging problems. And so yeah, it's a good idea to go and ask people who know more to get unstuck. But yeah, Googling is a good idea as well. If you have errors, then you can go and Google and yeah, learn about good practices for debugging. There are many ways that you can debug your code and find solutions to your problems yourself. All right. Oops. Yeah, any other questions? We have another 10 minutes, so I could show you something even more advanced. All right. Did I knock everyone out except Ana Lucia? Okay.
I'm actually curious about
Yeah.
just like one thing. Like, is it possible, because we have interactive NFTs, is it possible to get an NFT to burn itself, but like instead of like just through the backend code to actually interact with the front end, like Hicket Nung page and proceed to like actively burn itself? Is that even a thing? I'm just thinking of like interactiveness in that sense.
Yeah, so I mean, in theory, no. I think, well, that's a good question actually, because the I don't know what kind of operations you can trigger, but that's part of the reasons why object.com doesn't allow this types of interactions anymore. That you could trigger a wallet interaction and then ask to transfer however many tests that you want to transfer to an arbitrary wallet. You can't force the user to click OK on the transaction, but you can prompt them for a transaction. And if they are not if they don't really know what they're doing, then they might click OK without realizing they were doing a real transaction. So I don't know if you could use that to burn, for the token to burn itself. That might be a bit complicated, but I can't be sure 100%. If you wanted to have an object that burns itself or does all kinds of these more the advanced blockchain operations, you probably would have to write your own smart contract, and that's kind of beyond my beyond the scope of what I myself understand. But yeah, you could. I think there's some really interesting things that can be done by writing your own contracts. That means, as far as I know, that then your piece wouldn't be listed on any of those platforms. You would have to make your own website to show it if you create your own smart contracts and your own tokens. But it's a possibility, and I've seen artists do it who are more technical than I am, create their own smart contracts and do more advanced things. This is a bit of a hack in a way, the using Higdex to get the information, and it's also not 100% Web3, because if Higdex goes down, then those pieces are broken and they won't work anymore. Like these. I think I showed it the last time, but yeah, my most recent piece using this. Well, the most recent was the collaboration with Mumu, but yeah, the piece that really used this, used Higdex, is Adam, which is this piece that erases itself slowly over time. Please go away. There you go. So yeah, this piece that erases itself as people collect it. So it doesn't work on object.com right now, and if Higdex goes down, then it will not work anymore either. I mean, it's written there. It's an experimental piece, but that's something to be aware of. If you start going down that path, it's very exciting, and you can make some really cool things. But that might mean that that your piece breaks in the future if platforms decide to drop support, or if Higdex stops being a thing. I hope that answered your question. So, yeah, well, let's have a last, let's look at one last template, which is the Higdex template. So, yep. So, so yeah, if I run this, here I'm checking whether the person currently looking owns the object or not. And if I was to change, so here I selected myself, I'm simulating. I think that's the one that's running. Yeah, viewer data is dummy, so dummy is this. So if I'm looking at it, yes, I own that object. I'm not sure anymore which object I picked as my dummy, as my target. But if I change this wallet ID to be something different, then no, I do not own this NFT. So you can use this template to for the object to check itself, and then check who owns it. Right now, I'm making a request to Higdex that contains everything. But if you wanted to do this the proper way, you would have to optimize this request to only request the data that you want. That optimize the query to only request the data that you actually need. Yeah, I wrote it here. Like this query is loading more data than you probably need. It makes it easier, but it's a bit wasteful. So yeah, you could go here and create the request that you want. So it could be, so this is the Graphql playground, or I don't know how it's called, from Higdex, and it helps you compose one of these queries. It's called Graphql. It's a database query language or system. And here I can select what information I want about an object, and so that could be, let's see, token by PK. I myself still a bit unclear about what all of these mean, but let's see, like, yeah, token holder, token ID, and here the token. So let's enter the number of the token here. So 67954. Yes, 67954. And run it again. Oh, I managed to crash it somehow. All right, great. Let's bring it again. Let's reload it. Yeah, I crashed. Great demo. Okay, let's close it and open a new tab. All right, so token holder. Okay. Holder ID, no ID. Where token ID holder? I think this can be simpler. Because we still have another. Okay, empty query. That's good. All right, so a token holder. Yeah, there you go. Holder ID. Where the token is token ID equals, and then we can enter our number 94. Yeah, there you go. So here I composed a query, a very basic query. Bye, Dylan. So yeah, here I composed a query that says I want the token holder where the token ID equals this. Give me the holder ID, and here I can see all the people who hold this. If I want to have more information, like say I want to know the name of the holder, I can go to holder name. So now it's also gonna give me the name. So here you see I have holder name Cuban Toast here, whatever this is. Some of them don't have names; they're anonymous. Luna Pix here. So yeah, here you can see that's a custom query, and it's more optimized than asking for the whole, like all the information about an object. You should only ask for the information that you actually want, and this is this is going to be faster, and it's also putting less load on Higdex, which is a nice thing. All right, so this is really like the advanced stuff, and that's for people who probably like already know a bit about web development and JavaScript. But you know, if you like a challenge and you don't know any of that, and you want to do these kind of things, this is cool. Look at the templates that is provided here, and yeah, go ahead, have some fun with this. If you get stuck, feel free to ask. We'll try to help, or come to the Burb's Nest and ask people how to do this or that. Either I or someone else there will try to help you out. Yeah, I hope this was at least digestible. I know if you never coded ever, this might feel a little overwhelming. Just go back to the tutorial from last week and try to learn a bit about the basics of P5, and yeah, then you can go back and learn these more advanced things. I'm not sure if I already shared this last time. Let me see, where is it? P5 for beginners. Yes, that's the one. So yeah, here I have some resources that are more for creative coding beginners, with tutorials and things that tell you a bit more about the history and the principles of creative coding as well. Interesting videos. So yeah, go ahead and explore this world. I can also recommend that creativecode.page, which my friend Taru and I made, which has many. It's basically a visual catalog of creative coding techniques, which you can go and explore. And if you've seen something cool but you don't know how it's called, you might find it there. Don't forget to click load more, because there's a lot more, and they all have either images or GIFs. Yeah, and this should give you enough information and excitement, hopefully, to get started. Oh, there's even 100 more, so keep loading more. No, there's not more. That's it. So yeah, and if you have any last questions, please let me know. I didn't actually show you how to mint. That's a big That's a big one. So the
We
the
need
way
a
that
we
you
need a,
yeah.
a part 3 for that.
Yeah, we would need a part 3, but basically you need to put all your files into a zip and then put it on and then mint that on Teia. But yeah, I tried to fit too much in an hour and a half. I'm sorry. So yeah, any last questions or remarks or anything before we wrap up or we close? Because we're already over time, I think.
I think we have time for a kind of, last question or comments or whatever. Yeah, don't worry, guys.
I can stick around a few more minutes if necessary. Anyway, no problem. So yeah, anyone?
Also, I wanted to mention that we have other classes that Raphael had with our last two cohorts. So on our website, you will find kind of other similar to the one that you just attended, but of course with other question and other point of view of our second and first cohort of artists. So yeah, they could be helpful.
Actually,
too,
in the
yeah.
one with the second cohort, you will find the explanations of how to how to download the code and mint it on Hiketnung. So at least it's there somewhere. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending this class. And yeah, if you want to see more, I'm also streaming on Twitch twice a week. You will find me. I'm Sable Raph on every platform, so you can find me there. I have a segment called Creative Code News where I show some inspiring things that I found in the last 7 days every week, and as well as a creative coding challenge. So if you want a weekly prompt to get you excited and making things, you can you can send it on my Discord, and I will review them. I review them every Sunday. It's a lot of fun, and it's a way to get a bit of motivation and learn from the work of others as well. Yeah. Jean Saucisse, what a great what a great pseudonym. Love it. Yeah, thanks everybody. And feel
Thank you
free
so
to give
much,
me some
Raphael.
feedback, send me a DM. I'm on Discord, I'm on Twitter as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And if you need some mentorship, I can also make time. I know I will talk to Santiago tomorrow. So yeah, just send me a DM and I'll we'll find a moment. All right.
Great. Thank you so much, Raphael. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, bye Mathilde. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you very much. Bye.